Hello, affiliate listeners. Welcome, and we are here at Affiliate Summit West, and we just had a really fun and insightful conversation with Stefan, who changed his business and built his brand on a simple 5-minute high production video. But guess what, guys? It was only $300 for him to produce something that went viral and made a ton of sales. He's going to break down step by step how he did that and how you could start doing your business. Plus, with a little surprise that I don't want to spoil for you at the end. So jump in and give it a listen.
But there's certain things that, I think are very important and valid for all the videos that I do. And I can go quickly to give you some of those tips.
If you just want to give the structure and the outline,
sure.
and then what we could do is we could talk. We'll talk through that, and we could talk about maybe some of the production side. Because, like most time when you hear Harmer Brothers and Chamber Media, people are thinking 6 figures investment to get somebody to go and create a video for them. So,
and that's totally, again, fine. They're great companies. If somebody has the budget, go with them. I would go with them if I have 50K or 100K to invest in that, right? But right now, like so many other people, they don't have that money, so they can shoot with something like that for like under 5K. And we can definitely talk about that too.
We will get there, because that is super exciting, because I want that high quality on a low quality budget is always a great ROI. So let's talk a little bit about the structure and what you did in that first video and how you continue to scale it out to really grow a platform and really when normally you need funding. So you went from funding to self-funded using that direct response brand piece. So talk a little bit how you did it, because I'm curious. Sounds amazing.
Sounds good. So I always say, think of those videos as a funnel, right? So in the way you have an online funnel with different pages, and you're starting to put some traffic, and the further the people are going down the funnel, the fewer people you have left, right? So most people are going to be on the landing page. Then on the thank you page after an opt-in, there are fewer people. Then people who go to the order form, fewer buyers and fewer upsells, downsells. At the very end, there are very few, right? So if you have a video from 0 to like 5 to 7 minutes, you have to break down the whole video in kind of funnel pretty much. And here's an example. If you have a great video and you have every single element, but if your first 7 seconds suck, that they're really bad, like it just doesn't have the principles, for instance, and the pattern interrupts and those kind of things, then you might cut 50% of your people might stop watching after the first 7 seconds, and you might have lost potential clients who, if they went down the road to watch the video, they would loved it, and they might end up opting in or buying or whatever the call to action is. So we're kind of doing that reverse engineer. You have to see the whole big picture and start writing the script from that. So let's start from the beginning right now. When you write a script for a video like that, obviously we're trying to put this on Facebook or YouTube for ads, and your goal is to get as many views as possible in the beginning. So what I call it and what other people call it, in the beginning is stop the scroll. You have to come up with something to stop that scroll on Facebook.
Skip stop
the button the first 5 seconds. What can you do? What is the beginning? What are the first few frames of your video that will make somebody to stop the scroll? Usually faces, people's faces, they love that. So all my videos, let's say I'll give you a couple of examples. That same video that we talked about with the kids, I was doing push-ups with a kid on my back. So just that, some guy is starting to do push-ups on the end of the cliff, and all of a sudden the text appears, big letters. What is the biggest American paradox? Question mark. That's it, right? So you're scrolling down and you see that. So it opens the curiosity. Like, okay, first of all, what is this random guy here doing push-ups in the end of the cliff with a kid on his back? And what is that biggest American paradox? I'm American. I'm Australian, but I want to know what that is. So your goal is to just get that click to scroll.
So a couple of questions on that. So, you're totally right, and I hear it all the time. And like you said, the Harm Brothers and Chamber, they teach the same idea that you need to start at a peak level of drama or something that's going to catch that eye. So, what I'd be curious to kind of know, like, do you find maybe a specific style of pattern interrupt works better? Is it something where you want to go with humor? Obviously, that's what the Harm Brothers lead with. Is it something you want to go with maybe fear-based? You also mentioned like face focus, and you're really pulling more of a curiosity play with the one that you mentioned. Is there maybe a style or format you find has worked better for you? And if so, why do you think it is that one tends to work better?
Sure. I would say both work for me, like fear-based, comedy-based as well. Most of mine are like not fear-based, like, dramatic-based, let's say. I had once a lady, the whole video started with her staring at the camera directly and she's crying. Her tears are coming down, right? And it was voiced over by me. So the whole video starts with her, crying. So that was kind of, again, you're scrolling down, you see this crying lady. You first is like, okay, what's going on? Why is she crying? So I want to unmute to hear her if she's really crying. And she was, actually crying because she was actress hired, but she was playing a role. So that was one of the video. I had another video where there was a lady where she's doing her blender, her smoothie, and all of a sudden the smoothie explode and her whole face becomes in this green juice. So that was more comedy based, but still in the first 3 seconds we were seeing that, and that still worked really well. So I would say faces work very well. Yeah. Whether it's a child face, whether it's people's face directly in front of the camera, that works well, versus if you start with some landscape image or some stock footage or some random footage. Basically faces looking straight into the camera worked really, really well for me. Yeah. So I do that a lot.
No, that's. I'm glad you said that, because that actually, just to give you some credibility in that you said. I remember I went to a conference that YouTube put on, and YouTube has what Google Labs. Mm-hmm. It's an entire division that their whole thing is they work with the top advertisers on YouTube to do split testing and do research to figure out what's making a big difference. One of the defining characteristics on YouTube ads that they found in terms of success is tighter frames and focuses on faces. So and as the reasoning and kind of the logic behind it is most people are watching this content on their phone, and the phone is a very intimate source. What's probably the number one way people communicate on their cell phones nowadays? FaceTime. We want to watch and stare at someone's face for some god-awful reason. I don't understand why. I don't get it. I don't know what to do with my face whenever I'm holding it, but I think I'm like a 65-year-old in a 34-year-old's body. So it's so intimate when you put that in the ads. You could focus so much more on those facial features. Sorry, my microphone arm just dropped. It's tired too. It's really good that you said that, because that does vet out. And some of the biggest brand advertisements, they actually noticed it was a huge issue with auto ads. So most traditional TV media ads, it's like the beginning of The Shining. It's some car driving through some landscape. Exactly. They did terrible on YouTube and even on Facebook, right? When you have a short form video. And so it's trying to switch to something. How do you focus more on a face and make it seem personal? So that's fantastic advice. And I love that humor or drama both works. It's more like find what fits for you.
Absolutely.
Right?
And one other thing is also humans. That wasn't actually a face. Actually, the video that built the whole Zonia. Before Zonia was the Go Healthy Lab, which was the proof of concept we built on ClickFunnels until we switched to our own platform that we built from scratch. That, again, I scaled that back in the day, 2018, with one video, 10,000 subscribers on Zonia. And that was just one video that started with me. Camera is there, profile, I'm wearing an apron, I have this cutting board, and I'm just cutting celery. Very
masculinely.
Masculinely.
So just and for those that aren't on video, it is important to describe Stefan here, that he is in great shape, just gorgeous Adonis level muscles. So you imagine just, if you could think of like,
I was wearing my long sleeve, so
oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. You should cut those off, right? But just think of a European Adonis cutting celery. So I think that really helps when you're like, I would stop and watch that, depending on I guess your affiliation, right?
Well, thank you. Yeah, but I don't think that was the reason that why they were stopping. It was just me, some random guy cutting celery on a table, kind of serious at the same time. Camera pushed in post-production, dramatic music, and just these newspapers, again, text cards. I love using text cards in the beginning, like that one that I said, what is the biggest American paradox? In this case, they were like newspapers kind of cuts, like you cutting from a newspaper, like different headlines. So these were like contradictory headlines, like keto diet is great for you, keto diet is bad, cholesterol is the reason for heart disease. Cholesterol, your body needs cholesterol to live, right? Because people are constantly bombarded with all these contradictory statements. So in the first 50 seconds, there were no lines. It was just me cutting very hard, that camera is pushing in, and you see all these contradictory, lines. So again, it was kind of pattern interrupt. People were stopping. They see that, they start reading it. It opens their curiosity. So if you go back to the video, what is the next step after you stop the scroll is you have to open the loop. So you do that either by asking a question or somehow, like in this video, I didn't really ask a question. I was just putting this contradictory statement. So people are very curious to like, okay, what is going on here? Like, what is he's saying that, but then he's saying something else. Or these are headlines. What is going on? And then the moment I cut, I'm just looking at them and I'm saying, are you confused? By all this? Well, guess what? Me too. I'm kind of sick of that. And then I just get the knife and I stab it on the table. Like I do this action. I get it and just stab the whole knife, so it just stays like that on the table.
Boom, yeah.
And then the whole video starts with me starting to preach. Music picks up, and then I start, talking about the whole obesity epidemic. That was the video. The angle was the obesity epidemic that happened in the last 50, 60 years since the whole standard American diet, the high sugary diet, the processed foods, and those kind of things. So I first gave a little background history of how people back in the day, they used to be fit. Most of the people, because they were moving a lot, they weren't any kind of much processed foods back then. So here we come to, we opened the loop. So now people are interested to find out the answer, right? So my first video, I was, telling them what the biggest American paradox is, which was that we are eating more fat than we've ever had as a society in America, but at the same time, we're getting fatter and fatter and fatter. And that's the paradox, why, I'm sorry, we're eating less fat, my apology.
Yeah.
We're eating less fat in the last 50, 60 years, but we're getting fatter and fatter and fatter, right?
Yeah.
So, because everybody thinks, so you have to eat less fat to lose weight, but that was the whole 50 years of standard American diet.
Reduced fat health.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was, to me, the biggest American paradox, and I started explaining that. So in the next part, which is the majority of your video, and I'm talking about the next 1 to 1.5, 2 minutes, in my case, sometimes even 3 minutes, I don't even mention product. I don't do call to action. I'm starting to say a story. Now is the storytelling moment where everybody has to find their own techniques of what story you want to tell. Before you talk about the product, how you can tell a beautiful story that can lead to the product you want to sell or give for free, whether it's a free ebook. So there are different techniques here you can do. I personally love combining authenticity, as we talked about it. It's one take shots, also why I love the one take videos, because you can they're not super scripted. So I know the script, I've learned it, but I can improvise. So many times I'm changing on spots things. I have to improvise with the kids. Another reason I add the kids, because I love kids, and I love working with them, and it's much more authentic. It makes me more relaxed as the speaker too. And most of my videos, I'm the speaker. So I love, authenticity is very important. Comedy, so also is good, to add different type of comedy in the video. Even that video with the kid, there was lots of kind of comedy elements. Like I keep talking about the high fat diet, the low, how the standard American diet is low fat diet, and all of a sudden there's this yogurt that comes with a whip hand, like very quick, right next to me, and then on the other side comes this spoon, and I'm taking the spoon and I'm taking a spoon of yogurt, and I'm eating it, and I'm saying, this is a plain yogurt, it's healthy for you, right? Low fat yogurt. Well, guess what? There's actually 28 grams of sugar, which is about 7 teaspoons of sugar, and all of a sudden a whole bag with 7 equivalent teaspoons of sugar appears, right? Mm-hmm. So all these elements is, the comedy, the authenticity, the interesting, kind of adds roller coaster. So you're constantly playing with the viewers' emotion and attention to get them, because everybody right now is low attention span. So if you do something boring, they won't really pay attention. They'll just leave it, right? So your goal is to keep them engaged throughout the time. So that's when those moments with props you can play, adding different props and stuff.
Yeah. So a lot of it's like, so you have the pattern interrupt, then you're going to go to the open loop, and then you get to that story portion. And one of the keys is then that's really going to be the longest part of your video. Yeah. So first you need to make sure you know what your story is. Mm-hmm. Then you find ways to draw out your authenticity, which I think obviously lots of different ways to do that. I love the idea that, hey, talk about a script, but then do one takes, right? So you're not going to mash up the best of one take. It's like, we will get one, which I've watched your videos and I've always noticed that, it feels very natural. And we've all watched the videos where there's lots of cuts and you could tell that it's been cut up, but boy.
And that works too, by the way. I've done some of those too. They work great. It's always good to try different things in. So,
but I like that you do that. I think that's a really interesting tactic. And like I was like, I like that. That's something I could see us trying more too. But one thing that Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, actually, that was inspired by some of the big motion pictures, like let's say The Revenant. Alejandro, the director, he likes using those long take shots that are uninterrupted. When Leonardo DiCaprio was like in the middle of the war between the Native Americans, and the camera was going around him, like explosions here, explosions there, and you were in the movie, you're all in because everything is so real, right? So I've Damien, he's not I forgot his last name, the guy from the La La Land.
Yeah.
That movie, he also loves that type of shots. So long take shots again make things more authentic naturally because it looks less kind of scripted, when there's too many cuts. So
like 1917 or Birdman.
Oh yes,
we could just go. We could go like all cinema nerd here. Yeah.
1917, just one take movie.
Yeah,
that's why it was so popular.
Yeah, well, and it definitely you don't have a moment to take a breath in that, so your attention is so focused in those single takes. Because I think inherently, if we take a cut and there is a break, that's also a break for me mentally, where I'm making individual decisions whether I want to continue. Yet at the same time, building off that, when you're talking about in that story format to keep attention, almost like you're having other forms of pattern interrupts to keep people engaged.
Constantly.
So it's almost like, are you on like a 5 to 10 second cycle where you're doing some sort of action? Like, how do you kind of map that out to make sure that you can keep that engagement through to get the end of the story?
Well, if you do it like too often, I feel like it might overwhelm people and they might just kind of give up. So I wouldn't do it like every 5-10 seconds, but it's almost like literally a roller coaster. You go up, and then all of a sudden you go down, and again up. So you're kind of building it throughout this whole 1.5, 2, 3, 4 minutes, section. So it really depends on the video, depends on the script, on the product, on the story you're telling. But definitely add those elements with like props, different things that you can incorporate in the video. And also keep it, at the end of the day, keep it simple. That's the other thing I want to talk about, simplicity. If you overcomplicate things too much in the whole story, it might confuse people. So the least thing you want to do is confuse them. So simplicity, in addition to the authenticity, are very important to keep people throughout the whole video. And then obviously the emotional component too. We want people to relate to the story. They're like, yes, I've been there. Yes, I feel this way. Oh my God, you just told my story right there, right? So that's what you want to add, that, what story can I tell? Even if it's the most scientific information, when I was talking about that obesity epidemic, how the whole thing started, it's pretty scientific kind of history stuff, not super interesting in a way, but I kind of tweaked it in the whole direction of the story to tell it in a simple, authentic, and interesting way. With stock footage, with the voiceover, with all these different elements. I had some. I love my techniques is like the whip hands. I talk, and all of a sudden the camera just go. Whew. It's called whip hand movement on the left. Super easy to do it in post-production too, if you don't do it in the actual thing. And then it goes to a totally different scene where in that video, it was kind of emotional video, but all of a sudden you see these 3 Italians eating pizza and like talking Italian and laughing when I was saying, it's fine to, from time to time to kind of cheat and then go back to me and I continue the whole thing. So that thing is, again, adding that kind of roller coaster and interesting kind of aspect.
Yeah, so it's movement. It sounds like you need to create some form of movement, whether it's a swipe to a different scene, whether it's a new prop or even like a joke and a change in emotional tone. It's the idea of periodic movement to keep people engaged. Now, so that's fantastic. And definitely the emotional side too, making sure you capture that, because you're right. At the end of the day, we need to get the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is an emotional center, and so if we're not tapping into those deep core emotions, there's a good chance they're not going to tap on the buy button when that eventually comes up, or whatever CTA we're driving for. So kind of transitioning into that, unless there's more you want to talk about in that story section. From story, is it straight to CTA, or do you have another step that you take before you build into, now let's talk about why you're here and closing loop, or what's kind of the next step after that story piece?
I would say, again, depends on the video, but after the story is kind of where and by the way, you can open multiple loops within a video, right? So you can open the first loop in the beginning, and then you can close it somewhere towards the end before the call to action, but open a new one, so there's different ways to do that. But I would say, after the story is where you do the first call to action, where you introduce the product, and then once you introduce the product, you do the first call to action, whether it's a free ebook. That video with the kid, again, the first one was a free ebook. So it was at the very end where that was the improvisation where he started crying. I started kind of holding him and kind of shake him, and then that book again came from the side, with a sound, and I took it. I was like, so if you want to learn about this, we created this ultimate roadmap for fast metabolism that you guys can get for free. And at the same time, I'm going back to him, kind of shaking back to the audience, and that was just very real. So I would say by that time, people should already trust you. If they're sticking with you for so long, that means that you got their attention. They've been listening to you. In your story is also important. We forgot to say that the educational aspect too, right? So we're telling a story, but you also want to educate them to learn something new or reaffirm something that they have already learned. So that the Biggest American Paradox video, it was something that most people already knew, that the high-fat diet is actually not bad for you, and actually the low-fat diet is what makes people obese and stuff like that. So, but I had so many people who told me, I knew that, but it was the first time after seeing this video, that it clicked so well in my head that from tomorrow I want to take an action now and change my life, right? So, and I want them as a client, or even just like as a fan, right, who might just follow my blog and read my emails. So again, we're trying to educate them too about something new or reaffirm something that they already know. And then you do the call to action. And after the call to action, I always continue for at least 1.5 more minutes. If it means that for the folks who haven't done the actual action, whether it's getting the free book or buying or subscribing, I continue that for 1.5 more minutes, or for 1 more minute, continuing the whole story. In my other video was the very emotional side, like whole music changes, and I was telling them what would happen if people don't take action right now.
Gotcha.
Especially for the obesity epidemic. If we don't join this movement, because my call to action was join the movement, let's reverse together the obesity epidemic by joining our community for free. By the way, there is a 7-day free trial. Join our community. Let's reverse the obesity epidemic. And I didn't sell the product. I was selling the community, the mission, the movement. Like we created pretty much a movement, which is also important. And then I was saying, if you don't do it, there might be big consequences, and for all of us, or for you. So that was like the fear kind of based element, which I personally believe too, by the way. I'm not just trying to create some random fear to get people sign up. And that was the emotional side, where music changed. The kid was sitting on the side, kind of very down, which was also helping a lot. He was just playing with his toys, and I was like, look at him. This is our future, right? And if we don't do something, things are going to go in a bad direction. We don't want that to happen. So join our community. It's your chance. It's your chance. So I was just like, the opportunity is right here, so it's your decision to take it or not, kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's your opportunity. So after the CTA, it really is kind of overextending to overcome objections and whatever the tone of the product might hit. Because obviously, in that situation, you're telling a story. Sorry, this arm keeps moving, so I think I'm just gonna hunch over.
You can look it from here. I think.
Yeah, well, I tried. It wasn't. Maybe I need your muscles, right? So it seems like it's not moving. But no, I think it's again like. For that offer, it totally makes sense to talk about the urgency and the mission for right now.
Yeah.
Other times it might be something where it's like, hey, maybe you don't trust, or you've failed in these situations before. And so whatever that primary objection is, do you just address one? Do you try and address multiple? I know I've seen social proof after the CTA too.
Absolutely.
So it kind of depends, but that's really, it sounds like that's your area to overcome objections and whatever you think is going to be most prevalent for your offer or your offering, right?
Exactly, yeah. And some companies like the Chambers Brothers and Harmon Brothers, they do the first call to action much earlier, like around the 1 minute or 1.5 minutes, right? For one of my Zonia videos where I'm trying for people to sign up for a 7-day free trial, which is a little bit more, it's harder than giving them a free ebook, I wait until the 4th, 5th minute. So it really depends on the situation. And then overcoming objection, again, depends on the video. As you said, you can definitely put those testimonials. What else? It can really try different things.
Well, I know one thing the Harmon Brothers do in that section, like after, not the first CTA, but when they kind of get later, I always like when they talk about who isn't right for them. That's always a great one, right? And they'll say like, oh, well, all these 5-star reviews, except for Todd. Todd said this, and he said it smelled bad. I was like, well, if you want to be a Todd, you don't need to buy this product. But Todd kind of sucks, right? And so, you're using that social pressure and the idea of identifying someone that none of us wants, right? Exactly. No one wants to be a Todd or a Karen or whatever it might be. So, no, that's really good. And so do you do another CTA, or do you do like a blooper reel or a continuation at the end of your ad after that? Or how do you close it out after you kind of have that overcome objection section?
I do again a CTA. And by the way, one more thing you can add is also if you have an offer that expires, right? So you have a deadline. So sign up because it's only for the Black Friday thing, or it expires only until the end of this month. So that's also a great urgency you can add, because people hate missing out on opportunities and bonuses and free offers. And then I do one more call to action. Then again, something like real, like what can you come up with that comes from your heart? Again, authenticity, because here's the thing about the video productions. If there's a moment that you're not authentic, people will see that. If it's like you have a whole video and there was only 3-second or 5-second segment that you are not authentic, people will see that and they'll call you out, and they'll give you a hard time, and they'll write comments about that, and they will not end up signing up just because of that. So I would always say keep it simple, and it's better to be imperfect but authentic than super perfect but looks like staged, like you're trying too hard and trying to sell your product. So a great thing at the end is to, after the second, let's say, call to action or third call to action, some people continue the video and then do the third one or fourth. Just again, be authentic and try to add that mission statement. Not just like about the product now. Go back to the mission. Why are you doing this in the first spot? Why are you selling this product? Because you want to change people's life in a positive way. But what is the mission? More specific. My mission for that video was, let's reverse the obesity epidemic. It's a ridiculous epidemic that is happening and taking the life of hundreds of millions of people. It's like the silent killer kind of way that people don't really talk much about, but if you think about it, it's crazy. So our mission is to reverse that, and I would say if you finish your video with that, with your mission statement, and you're really open to them, and sometimes I'm even a little bit more than just open and being super kind. I'm sometimes a little almost very kind of serious and angry, but not at the people, at the industry, but I'm like warning. And it's like almost this wake-up call that sometimes people need a little bit more, hey guys, things are serious. Better take action because things are bad, and I hate to seeing this happening, and I want to change this. So that's also been working very kind of well for me. I understand not everybody wants to do that. But still, keep it just authentic.
Well, no, I think when you talk about authenticity, though, if it's something that fits to where you can have some anger, right? And in reality, if you're sharing that, whether it's an industry or the common enemy, we know in direct response, you need to have an enemy to sling arrows at, right? People love to look no further than sports. What do we love about sports with rivalries? We all collectively sling arrows at a unified enemy. It rallies us. It brings community together, and we're tribal people. If you are slinging arrows at the right enemy and you do it in an aggressive way at the end of that CTA, I connect with that because I want to sling the same arrows. So it totally makes sense. And the one part, just to circle up on authenticity, because I couldn't agree with you more in those 3 seconds. We talked earlier about the faces and the intimate medium that is YouTube, or really just any video, especially knowing that it's used mobile. That's why I think people could see those small levels and just even the slightest bits of inauthenticity, because it is so much more intimate. I'm so much closer. I'm so much more engaged if I'm choosing to give you my attention, that it is not going to take a lot for me to just remove all that trust right away. So, because guess what? There's probably 5 other videos in the queue that I can watch that has the authenticity I want. The competition is really high.
Absolutely.
So, just to recap again, to go through it. So really, it's again the pattern interrupt. You need that first 5 to 7 seconds. You want to do drama, curiosity, or what you tend to work most. Make sure
open the loop.
And then you're going to open the loop. You're going to tell the story, making sure that you're creating movement, right? We'll just use that movement term to keep the engagement.
Roller coaster, authenticity, simplicity, emotional connection. Add the motion picture element, sound effects. It's so easy. You can go in library and get sound effects for like different things coming up. We'll
circle back to that in a little bit when we talk to some of the production sides, because we've gone through the video, but we haven't gone to how you make it look good, but not be a lot. So we'll get there in a bit. But before we jump into that, so just to recap, then you do CTA, and then it's that overcoming objections, and then a final authentic close.
One more CTA.
Oh.
And then a final authentic close,
Perfect.
which is the mission statement.
Yeah, the mission statement. Awesome. So that's a fantastic format. You should probably go back and re-listen to this part and write all that down again, because that's going to be that framework for when you're making your own crushing it 5 to 7 minute videos.